Chosen one, anchor your spirit to what I am about to say right now. That restlessness in your chest, the one that has no logical explanation, do not dismiss it. The enemy is working overtime this week for one reason and one reason only. He knows what God is repositioning you toward. It all ends here. The confusion about why nothing fits anymore, the disconnection, the quiet sense that something is being pulled out of your hands. But hear this clearly, it is not ending because of luck. It is ending because of what you have been carrying and how you have carried it. Think back to that moment this week when you looked at your life, the relationships, the environment, the routine, and something inside you went quiet. Not sad, not angry, just quiet, like a door closing gently. You thought something was wrong with you. You did not know it then, but that silence was discernment. That stillness was God drawing a boundary around your future without asking your permission. You did not lose your way. You were rerouted. You did not find this message by accident. The algorithm did not bring you here. God did. This is a divine appointment scheduled before the foundations of the earth. You are not stumbling through a random Tuesday. You are standing at a threshold. Stay until the very last word of this message, because in the next few minutes I am going to hand you the exact verdict that explains why your spirit has been unsettled. I am going to walk you through the divine audit of this season, so you can see precisely what God is removing and why He cannot let you stay where you are. And at the end, I am going to give you the declaration that seals this realignment and silences the voice telling you something is wrong with you. Do not click away. Your future self is begging you to stay, because if you leave now, you will leave before the verdict. And you will carry confusion back into a season that was supposed to bring clarity. I know what the last 72 hours have felt like. The atmosphere has not just been quiet. It has been different, like something shifted and nobody told you what changed. Maybe you were in the middle of a conversation this week with a friend, a colleague, someone you have known for years, and you felt it. That distance, not because anything happened, not because anyone said the wrong thing, just a slow, undeniable sense that this person no longer fits where you are going. Or maybe you woke up at 3 in the morning this week with your heart heavy, not broken, not panicked, just heavy, staring at the ceiling, running through your life like an inventory, feeling like something is ending, but you cannot name what it is. You feel suspended, like you are standing in the space between the life you built and the life you were actually called to live. And in that suspension, the enemy has started whispering a very specific lie. Listen to your thoughts right now. He is telling you that the reason everything feels like it is shifting is because you have done something wrong. He is replaying that moment when you pulled back from a relationship. That moment when you stopped showing up the way you used to. That moment when you let the distance grow and did not fight to close it. The accuser is telling you that the unsettling you feel is the consequence of your failure. He is telling you that you disrupted something sacred, that you walked away from something God placed in your life, and now you are experiencing the withdrawal of divine favor. But I need you to hear what the scripture actually says about this moment. Isaiah 43:19 says, "Behold, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs forth. Do you not perceive it? I will make a way in the wilderness and rivers in the desert." Listen to that promise. I am doing a new thing, not continuing the old thing, not repairing the old thing, doing something entirely new. The people who are fading are not fading because you failed them. The doors that are closing are not closing because you disqualified yourself. The environments that no longer fit are not too small because something is wrong with you. They are too small because God has been growing you for an assignment those spaces were never designed to hold. You are not in decline. You are in transition. The heaviness you feel is not the weight of punishment. It is the weight of acceleration. It is the pressure of a life being pulled forward faster than your mind has had time to process. You looked at the fading and called it loss. You looked at the restlessness and called it confusion. You looked at the pulling away and called it failure. But let me reframe your reality right now. That is not loss. That is selection. God is not taking things from you. He is selecting what is qualified to carry you into your next season, and most of what made sense in your last chapter does not have clearance for where you are going. The restlessness you cannot explain is not spiritual sickness. It is spiritual sight. Your spirit already sees the realignment your mind has not yet accepted. You are not broken. You are being rebuilt for something that does not exist yet. God doesn't reveal things by accident. If this message confirmed what your spirit already knew, the Chosen One's blueprint was written for this exact moment in your journey. 8 chapters that decode why your life unfolded the way it did, and what God is activating next. Listen to the full audiobook version in your own time and receive Activating Your Prophet Mantle, a bonus guide for those God is raising as prophetic voices in this generation. The link is in the first pinned comment, but it won't stay there forever. Now let me show you what is actually happening beneath the surface of what you have been feeling. We are about to pull back the veil and illuminate the unseen forces and divine orchestrations that have been quietly at work in the deep chambers of your soul. This is not mere coincidence, nor is it random chaos. There is a sacred architecture to the journey of every soul chosen for a higher purpose, a deliberate blueprint laid out by the master builder of the cosmos. There is a pattern that runs through the lives of every person God has ever chosen for something significant, and it is almost never recognized while it is happening. It is like the intricate gears of a celestial clock, moving with precision in the darkness, their ultimate purpose only revealed when the grand design is complete. Think of it as the unwritten symphony of the spiritual life, where movements of discord and dissonance often precede the most profound harmonies. While you are in the thick of it, enveloped by the fog of uncertainty and the clamor of change, it feels more like demolition than construction. It feels like disruption, not divine direction. It is only understood in retrospect, after the confusion has cleared, after the transition has completed, after the person standing on the other side of the wilderness looks back and finally names what God was doing. It is then, and often only then, that the intricate tapestry of divine grace and wisdom becomes visible, revealing threads of meaning where only knots and tangles seemed to exist before. But you are not going to wait until the other side. You are going to see it right now, in the middle of it, because that is the profound difference between someone who merely survives a transition, weathering the storm with gritted teeth and weary spirit, and someone who cooperates with it, aligning their will with the divine current, recognizing the hand of God even when it feels like a heavy weight pressing them down. To cooperate is to become a co-creator with the divine, actively participating in your own unfolding rather than passively enduring it. It is to find the rhythm of heaven in the midst of earthly chaos. Here is what no one tells you about divine realignment. It does not feel like promotion when it is happening. It feels like grief. It feels like the slow, quiet unraveling of everything you carefully constructed, piece by painstaking piece. Imagine a majestic ship being meticulously refitted in dry dock. From an external perspective, it might appear to be broken down, stripped of its former glory, its inner workings exposed. Yet, this painful dismantling is precisely what prepares it for a grander voyage, for deeper waters and more distant shores. Your carefully built life, like that ship, is being stripped down not for destruction, but for a greater purpose. This unraveling is not a sign of failure, but a testament to the fact that you have outgrown the confines of your previous season. And the most disorienting part is that nothing catastrophic has to happen for you to feel it. There isn't always a sudden earthquake or a visible storm. Often it's a subtle shift, a quiet hum beneath the surface of your existence. The ground just begins to feel different beneath your feet, as if the very earth beneath you has changed its composition, becoming less solid, less familiar. The conversations that used to fill you with energy, inspiration, and belonging start to hollow you out, leaving you feeling strangely empty, like echoes in a vast, vacant hall. The environments that once felt like home, like a comforting blanket wrapped around your soul, begin to feel like borrowed space, temporary lodgings where you no longer truly belong. You become a transient in your own life, a visitor in places that once held your deepest roots. And you walk around carrying this unnamed thing, this low, persistent ache, a spiritual phantom limb pain for what once was, wondering why you cannot simply be grateful for what you have, while simultaneously feeling so deeply with every fiber of your being that what you have is no longer what you need. This isn't a lack of gratitude, it's a deep internal resonance with a divine summons. It is the spiritual equivalent of a seed outgrowing its pot, feeling the insistent urge to break free and reach for a wider sky. That tension is not ingratitude. That tension is calling. It is the whisper of your divine assignment, the murmur of your true self struggling to emerge from the chrysalis of your old identity. It is the Holy Spirit stirring within you, creating a divine discontent that is meant to propel you forward into the very purpose for which you were created. Think about Moses standing at the burning bush. Here was a man who had effectively run from his destiny, a prince of Egypt who became a humble shepherd. He had spent 40 years in the wilderness building an entirely different life than the one he was born for. 40 years is a lifetime. He had settled. He had constructed a version of himself that fit the desert landscape, a role that was manageable, predictable, and safe. He was not miserable. He had found something that worked, a comfortable routine, a quiet existence far from the tumult and expectation of Pharaoh's court. He had built a life that offered him a certain peace, a sanctuary from his past. And then God interrupted what worked with something that burned without being consumed. A bush aflame, yet miraculously intact, a symbol of divine presence that defied natural law. This was not a gentle invitation. It was a fiery, undeniable summons. And the first thing Moses said was not yes. It was, "Who am I?" This was not an act of defiance, but a profound crisis of identity. The comfortable self he had built in Midian was suddenly inadequate, shattered by the encounter with the holy. His past self, the one who murdered an Egyptian, was irrelevant. The shepherd self was too small. He was being called into an identity he had long forgotten, one that felt overwhelming and impossible. Because divine transition always begins with identity disruption before it ends in identity clarity. It is the breaking of the old mold so the new, divinely crafted form can emerge. What you are feeling right now, that quiet unraveling of who you thought you were and where you thought you were going, the discomfort of an identity being stretched beyond its previous limits, that is not the destruction of your identity. It is the beginning of its true definition, a more authentic, more potent, and more aligned version of the self God always intended you to be. It is the stripping away of layers accumulated through circumstance and human expectation, revealing the gold underneath. But here is where it goes deeper, and this is the part that most people are not ready to receive, for it challenges the very bedrock of their perceived security. Many are willing to acknowledge the external shifts, the changing relationships, or the dissolving opportunities. But few are prepared for the internal excavation that God is truly undertaking. The thing God is removing from your life right now is not primarily the relationships, the environments, or the opportunities that no longer fit. Those are the surface manifestations, the visible symptoms of a deeper work. They are merely the leaves falling from a tree, while the true work is happening at the root. The thing God is actually removing is the version of you that required those things to feel safe, to feel valued, to feel whole. He is not just clearing your surroundings, sweeping away the dust and debris of a past season. He is dismantling the scaffolding you built around a smaller version of yourself, that intricate support system of external validation, conditional belonging, and self-imposed limitations. And that scaffolding, if you are honest, has become the thing you have been calling your foundation, mistaking temporary supports for eternal bedrock. You have mistaken the structures that held you together in one season for the structures that are supposed to hold you in every season, believing that the temporary crutches of yesterday are meant to be the sturdy pillars of tomorrow. But God, in His relentless precision, in His unwavering commitment to your highest calling, is refusing to let you carry a temporary scaffold into a permanent assignment. He knows that true strength comes from within, not from external props. He is preparing you for a monumental construction, a life built on His promises, not on the fragile framework of human expectation or fleeting circumstance. He is revealing the magnificent edifice of your true self, which can only stand when the temporary supports are removed. This is where the real confrontation begins, where the comfortable illusions give way to uncomfortable truths. And I need you to stay with me, because what is coming next is the insight that breaks the cycle that has kept too many chosen people circling the same mountain for years. This is the key that unlocks the door to your liberation, the truth that will set you free from the repetitive patterns that have held you captive. Without this understanding, you risk repeating the same lessons, experiencing the same heartaches, and feeling the same frustrating sense of stagnation, perpetually on the precipice of breakthrough, but never quite crossing the threshold. This insight offers a roadmap out of the wilderness of repetition and into the promised land of progression. The reason you keep returning to what God is trying to close is not because you are disobedient. It is because you have not yet grieved the version of yourself that lived there, the one whose narrative was inextricably linked to that now fading reality. You are trying to move forward while simultaneously mourning someone you never gave yourself permission to mourn, carrying an unacknowledged sorrow for a part of yourself that is being released. The old version of you, the one who needed that relationship to feel valued, to fill a void in your soul, to affirm your worth, the one who needed that environment to feel visible, to feel a sense of belonging and purpose, the one who needed that role to feel significant, to define your identity and anchor your sense of self. That version of you deserved to be honored, acknowledged, and lovingly released before it was truly let go. It's like saying goodbye to a dear friend. You wouldn't just walk away without a word. And because no one told you that grief is a legitimate, vital, and sacred part of transition, a necessary rite of passage in the journey of transformation, you have been treating your mourning as evidence that you are making a mistake, as if your sadness is a flaw or a weakness. You have been reading your grief as resistance, a sign that you are fighting God's will, when it is actually reverence, a deep, natural, and profoundly human response to the ending of a significant chapter. It is the soul's way of processing change, of acknowledging what was, before embracing what is to come. You are not failing the transition. You are human inside of it, and your humanity, in this moment, is a testament to the depth of your soul and the significance of what you are letting go. Allow yourself the grace to feel, to process, and to heal. And this leads us to something most people miss entirely, a subtle but crucial distinction that can dramatically alter your response to the winds of change. Discerning between these two forces is paramount for navigating your spiritual journey with wisdom and peace. There is a difference between what God is closing and what the enemy is trying to steal, and you must learn to tell them apart. because they can feel identical in the moment. Both involve a sense of loss, a void where something once was, and this superficial similarity makes discernment challenging. However, their underlying spiritual signatures are profoundly different. When God closes something, there is a particular quality to it, a settled finality beneath the grief, a quiet knowing that even though it hurts, piercing through the heart of your comfort, it is right. It carries the weight of divine sovereignty, an unshakable peace that transcends understanding even amidst the sorrow. It feels like a chapter reaching its natural, divinely ordained conclusion, a gentle turning of the page by an unseen hand. It is often accompanied by a sense of exhaustion, a quiet resignation that the fight is over, and a deep-seated intuition that this ending is for your ultimate good, like a surgeon's precise cut designed for healing. When the enemy tries to steal something, there is a frantic, urgent quality, a panic that demands immediate action, a pressure that insists you do something right now to stop the loss. It often feels like injustice, unfairness, a sudden snatching, leaving you feeling robbed and violated. It creates a chaotic energy, a desperate need to cling, to reclaim, to reverse the perceived misfortune. There's a desperate energy, a breathless anxiety, a fear-driven impulse to intervene and prevent what feels like an unwarranted tragedy. If what you are experiencing right now has that quiet, heavy settledness to it, even beneath the confusion, even beneath the sadness, even beneath the pang of what might have been, that is God. That is not something slipping through your fingers due to your inadequacy or lack of effort. That is something being gently, sovereignly removed because your hands need to be free for what is coming, unburdened by the past, open and ready to receive the new blessings, the new assignments, and the new abundance He has prepared. This divine removal is an act of love, making space for greater things. Stay with me, because what I am about to share next is the part that changes how you move from this moment forward, shifting you from a reactive posture to a proactive alignment with heaven's agenda. This revelation is critical for breaking free from old patterns and stepping fully into your prepared future. The enemy's most sophisticated strategy against the person standing in a divine transition is not direct attack, though those come too. It is distraction through urgency, a subtle yet powerful manipulation that preys on your human need for security and your fear of loss. He knows that if he can get you to panic, to feel that desperate, frantic urge to cling, you will reach backward. You will try to restore what God is releasing, to piece back together the fragments of what heaven has already declared complete. You will pour precious energy, time, and emotional capital into preserving connections that have already been completed, like trying to restart a watch that has officially stopped. You will attempt to reopen doors that heaven has sealed shut, knocking relentlessly on portals that are no longer meant for your passage. You will expend valuable spiritual currency trying to convince yourself and others that the fading you feel is merely a temporary glitch, something that can and should be fixed, rather than a divinely orchestrated closure. And every precious moment you spend reaching backward, clinging to the familiar ghosts of yesterday, is a moment your future is standing patiently at the threshold, waiting for you to turn around and see it, waiting for you to release the old so you can embrace the new. It's a grand illusion designed to keep you orbiting the past, preventing your eyes from locking onto the horizon of your destiny. This is the moment to name the agreement you have been unknowingly making, to drag these hidden covenants into the light and declare their power broken. For too long, these unconscious pacts have dictated your steps, often leading you away from your true north. Every time you went back to something God already closed, ignoring the settled feeling of finality, you made an unconscious agreement that what He was removing was more valuable, more essential, or more comforting than what He was preparing, despite his infinite wisdom and boundless love. Every time you apologized for your growth, for your expansion, for the uncomfortable evolution of your soul, just to make someone else comfortable in their static state, you made an agreement that your assignment, your calling, your divine purpose was less important than their fleeting comfort, their fear of change, or their need for you to remain small. Every time you silenced that burning in your chest, that divine discontent, that prophetic whisper urging you onward, just to maintain a peace that was never really peace, but merely the absence of confrontation, you agreed that the sacred fire God placed in you was something to be managed, to be quenched, to be hidden, rather than something to be released, to be ignited, to illuminate the path forward. These agreements, though often unspoken, have bound you, limiting your potential and delaying your destiny. Those agreements end today. Today you reclaim your spiritual sovereignty and sever these unholy bonds, declaring a new covenant with the divine purpose that resides within you. And now we arrive at the layer that changes everything, the one most people never reach because they leave before the verdict, before the full revelation has unfolded, which is exactly what the enemy was counting on. He thrives in the shadows of incomplete understanding, knowing that if you walk away too soon, you'll miss the very truth that sets you free. Here is the divine contradiction that will reframe your entire understanding of this season. It's a paradox that, once grasped, transforms confusion into clarity and anxiety into divine anticipation. The very thing you have been asking God to take away, the discomfort, the restlessness, the unsettling feeling that something is profoundly wrong, that you are adrift in uncharted waters, is actually the evidence that something is deeply, profoundly right. This holy discontent is not a sign of your brokenness. It is the fingerprint of God's active presence in your life. God does not make his chosen ones restless to punish them, to torment them, or to simply make their lives difficult. He makes them restless to move them, to dislodge them from complacency, to propel them out of stagnant waters and into the vibrant currents of their destiny. The unsettledness you have been praying against, begging to be removed, is the very mechanism he is using to position you, to align you with a greater purpose, to pivot you towards the fulfillment of his promises. If you were comfortable, truly settled in the familiar, you would not move. You would remain tethered to the past, resistant to the call of the future. If the old season still felt full, still offered the sense of completion and satisfaction it once did, you would not reach for the new one. You would cling to the known. The emptying you have been experiencing, this feeling of spiritual divestment, is not abandonment. It is preparation. It is the divine making of space, the hollowing out of what once was, so that something infinitely greater can fill the void. He had to create the hunger, the deep yearning for more, before he could introduce the feast, before he could present the abundant table he has prepared for your soul. Just as a potter empties the clay before molding it, God empties you to refashion you into a vessel fit for his glory. But here is the part you did not expect. The final thing, the unexpected revelation beneath every layer that has been peeled back in this message, the culminating truth that brings all these insights into profound focus. This is the cornerstone of your empowerment, the ultimate key to unlocking your next chapter. The person you have been waiting for permission from, the one whose validation you have been quietly seeking, whose approval you believed you needed before you could fully step into what God is calling you toward, that person is you. Not the polished, ready, fully healed version of you that you keep telling yourself you need to become before you are worthy of the assignment. Not the perfectly aligned, impeccably prepared, flawlessly confident future self you envision. No, it is you, right now, in this very moment, with all your perceived imperfections, in the middle of the transition. in the grief and the confusion and the unsettling and the reformation, in the raw, authentic state of your becoming. God has not been waiting for you to finish becoming before He can begin using you. He has been waiting for you to stop waiting for a version of yourself that was never the version He called, for an idealized image that has served as a barrier, not a prerequisite. The calling was always on this version, the broken, still becoming, quietly burning, quietly chosen version of you that showed up to this message on a random day that was never random at all, but meticulously orchestrated by divine design. You are the permission you've been seeking. Your divine appointment is not conditional on your future perfection, but on your present willingness. You are not almost ready. You have never been more ready than you are in this exact moment. Every challenge, every heartache, every victory, every moment of confusion has been a crucible, forging you into the person you are right now, perfectly equipped for the journey ahead. Place your hand on your chest and declare this with me. Let these words resonate deep within your spirit, sealing a new covenant with your true self and your divine destiny. I release every agreement I made with smallness, with shrinking myself to fit confined spaces, with limiting my potential to appease the expectations of others. I release the grief I have been carrying as guilt, understanding now that mourning is a sacred pathway, not a sign of failure or resistance. I release the version of myself that needed external permission to become who God already called me to be, embracing the truth that my validation comes from within, from the divine spark that resides eternally in my soul. I break every cycle that fed on my fear and deceptively called it wisdom, recognizing now that true wisdom lies in courageous obedience, not in paralyzing hesitation. I step out of the suspended space between the life I built, the familiar but confining structure of my past, and the life I was made for, the expansive, vibrant reality of my true purpose. And I choose the life I was made for, not when I feel perfectly ready, for readiness is a state of being, not a destination, not when the path is entirely clear, for faith is the torch that illuminates the next step, not when the voices around me finally agree, for my calling is between me and my Creator. I choose it now. I declare that the restlessness in me is not a sign of my failure, not an indication of my lack, but it is the vibrant, undeniable sound of my future, pulling me forward, beckoning me into my next season. I am not broken. I am not behind. I am not disqualified. I am exactly who God said I was before the world told me otherwise, before the voices of doubt and fear attempted to redefine my worth. And from this moment, I walk in that truth, unashamed of my journey, unafraid of the unknown path ahead, and fully awake to the season that has already begun, ready to embrace the fullness of my divine inheritance. If this message broke something open in you tonight, do not carry it silently. Do not let this profound shift remain a private epiphany. Share it with someone who is standing in their own threshold moment and does not yet have the language for what they are feeling, someone who needs to hear these words as much as you did. Leave a comment below and tell me what shifted, what resonated, what truth ignited within you. I read every single one, and your shared experience builds a powerful collective current of transformation. And if you want to go deeper into what God is doing in this season of your life, to truly unpack the intricacies of your unique blueprint and the activation of your prophetic anointing, everything you need is in the first pinned comment below. I will see you in the next one.